Hi friends, welcome to my recap of Governing Body Update number 8 for December 2022, starring Anthony Marrs, Governing Body member Anthony Marrs himself. This is interesting. I found 3 interesting points in this. Number 1, it appears the Governing Body members are doing a little bit of damage control. And I'm wondering if they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, so they say, if it's going to do more damage than good. Number 2, it appears that they've come up with a new phrase, at least I've never heard of it, that we must adapt as Jehovah's chariot moves. I've never heard of that. I don't know. Leave me a comment if you have. Number 3, almost this entire update has nearly 0 fear-mongering, but of course, they did throw a little bit in. I'll show you towards the end. Anyway, here's Tony.
Welcome. In this program, we're going to talk about the importance of adapting as Jehovah's chariot moves.
I've never heard of that. Is that something new? Leave me a comment. I don't know. I've been out for a while. But anyway, Tony goes on to say how that the governing body members are making shepherding calls on various branches around the world. That's interesting. He kind of says it's like a CO visit, and he also gives an account of a pioneer's reaction upon attending the first in-person pioneer meeting. Check it out.
The service committee assigns governing body members to make shepherding visits on branches. It also assigns headquarters representatives to visit branches. This is similar to when circuit overseers visit congregations, except that the governing body members and headquarters representatives visit branches. One pioneer in New York said, "I attended the first in-person pioneer meeting in 3 years at the Queen's Assembly Hall today. I couldn't hold back tears a couple of times because our Father deeply understood what we went through during the pandemic. Jehovah is good indeed."
What did these pioneers go through that everybody else in the world did not have to go through? The fact that they could not go out and proselytize. Let me remind you, I don't recall the exact number, but an exorbitant number of witnesses perished as a result of that pandemic. Was it more than 20,000 or 26,000, something like that? Why was that number so high? Why didn't Jehovah protect those indoctrinated? What was that all about?
It's also encouraging to hear that the local design construction work is moving ahead. Where there are no government restrictions, Kingdom Hall construction groups have restarted. What theocratic construction is on the horizon? We now need over 15,700 new Kingdom Halls and major renovations around the world.
Now, what do they need those for? Why don't they just keep the Kingdom Halls that they're selling?
We need these Kingdom Halls for our in-person meetings. To begin addressing these needs, over 1,600 projects worldwide are planned for this year alone. And branches are also working hard to prepare facilities for in-person circuit assemblies and theocratic schools starting in January 2023. Can you make yourself available to help with theocratic construction? It's wonderful to see young people assisting with the work. Think of the training they're receiving now that they'll be able to use during the great rebuilding work after Armageddon.
None of this makes any sense, and none of it makes sense because it's all lies. This organization has turned into a real estate company. They're no longer a printing company. Very few magazines are being printed. They've gone online, and they need to call this a religion for a particular reason, and you're about to find out why.
We have another exciting update regarding freedom of worship. As Jesus foretold at Matthew 10:22, we face much opposition. Jesus said, "And you will be hated by all people on account of my name."
I just want to put this into context here because in Matthew 10, Jesus had been talking to his disciples about how they're going to be persecuted on account of his name, Christ's name, for preaching the message of Christ, not for preaching about an organization run by men who are trying to vindicate Jehovah's name. Completely different message. The disciples, the apostles were persecuted and killed, and so were the Christians for preaching and serving Christ. Okay? Just wanted to put that into context because Tony's about to tell you something.
To assist Jehovah's people, we have recently established the Freedom of Worship Office at the Central Europe branch. This headquarters department will coordinate our efforts to defend our worship in Europe. Now, you might be wondering, the work has been established throughout Europe for many years, so is this really needed? Yes, it is. For example, recently the government of Norway decided that Jehovah's Witnesses would no longer receive certain state benefits that are provided to all registered religions.
Could you imagine what is going through the minds of the indoctrinated when they hear this, that the organization is receiving grants from the Norwegian government? Little do they know, the organization is receiving money from many governments. And these grants, this money is based on membership numbers. You ever wonder why those time slips were so important? So the governing body members are concerned that the indoctrinated are going to be hearing this on the news. So they're doing this damage control. But in my opinion, I think it's going to backfire. I would think that some of the indoctrinated are going to do a little bit of research. So Tony next, he goes on and he shows a clip of a Scandinavian branch committee member explaining very vaguely about what happened in Norway. Doesn't tell them exactly why this occurs, but he takes them down a trip down memory lane to Nazi Germany. Seriously?
We were shocked when we received a letter from government authorities in Oslo, Norway, threatening to remove our registration as a religious community.
Oh, the Norwegian government did more than threaten to remove their registration as a religious community. What they did was they took away their funding. And their funding was more than 1.5 million euros per year. And why did they do this? Because it's a violation of children's rights. The fact that a child has no freedom of religion as a result of being a Jehovah's Witness. If they choose to walk away from this religion, they're shunned. That's what this is all about. The organization appealed it and they lost. Why? Not because they care about their children. They care about the money.
In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses suffered for their faith under the Nazi occupation of Norway during World War II. We've always been known as good citizens. In fact, a public report stated that Jehovah's Witnesses are careful to obey the laws of the land. Now they've suspended our grants.
I wonder what the indoctrinated are thinking. Wait a minute. They're asking for our donations, but they're also getting grants from the government? What's this all about?
While there are over 700 religious communities who continue to receive such state benefits.
Jehovah's Witnesses are not being persecuted because they're the only true religion on earth. They're being persecuted because they are violating the rights of their members. In this particular case, the rights of children who cannot leave safely. They cannot leave without being punished.
This decision is unconstitutional and an unprecedented attack on religious freedom in Norway. With the assistance of the newly established Freedom of Worship Office, we're pursuing legal remedies.
They create this Freedom of Worship Office where they are pursuing legal remedies to continue to disfellowship children who get baptized before they're old enough to recognize that they're making a lifelong decision to be a Jehovah's Witness. When they realize that this is just a bunch of lies, they can't get out. The purpose of this office is to continue to enslave their followers.
At the same time, we are pursuing dialogue with government officials, and we pray that this situation will be amicably resolved.
The authorities in Norway have threatened to remove our legal registration because of our scriptural beliefs and practices regarding disfellowshipping. In the future, various governments will challenge our freedom of worship. They may pressure us to change our scriptural beliefs, but we're certainly not going to do that. As Brother Pedersen mentioned, efforts are being made to address this issue. But now, as we're coming out of the pandemic, many activities are quickly resuming. And this is no surprise because Jehovah's celestial chariot moves swiftly like lightning.
So you better go to the meeting because you must adapt. Remember, that's what this is all about. Adapting when Jehovah's chariot's on the move. No more Zoom.
Jehovah's chariot perfectly reflects the reasonable, adaptable God who is in control of it. As his very name suggests, he can become anything that is needed in order to accomplish his purpose. Never should we worry that our God will be late in responding to our needs or that his organization will fail to adapt to some new challenge arising in the volatile world around us. We do well to remember that Jehovah's organization is active, ever on the move.
So, the chariot, as mentioned in Ezekiel, is the organization. Is that what he's saying? I don't know. But listen, Tony goes on. Of course, he's going to mention things that instill fear in the minds of the indoctrinated. Of course, he had to. Check it out.
We've certainly experienced the truth of these words during the pandemic. Thank you for the fine spirit you show as we all adapt to these changes. Earlier in the pandemic, we couldn't meet together in person, but as a result of faithfully following the chariot, we adapted and used video conferencing for our meetings and ministry. Thankfully, circumstances are different now. We rejoice to be able to meet in person again. Back in July, the governing body prepared an announcement that was read in all congregations about attending in-person meetings.
I guess they're having a problem with attendance.
After more than 2 years of not being able to meet together at our kingdom halls, we have renewed appreciation for in-person Christian meetings that lift our spirits and strengthen our faith during these difficult times. Now, some of us got used to doing everything on Zoom. I know for me, only for Jehovah would I have done what we needed to do during the pandemic. As soon as we could, I was so happy to go back to the Kingdom Hall. There really is nothing like being together with our brothers and sisters in person.
So what do you think? You think that Tony was eager to get back to the Kingdom Hall? I don't know. But anyway, here's a couple of interviews. I'm wondering if there was a little bit of scripting going on here.
I was so sad when they announced that we would stop having meetings at the Kingdom Hall because of COVID. I felt trapped because I couldn't go to the Kingdom Hall anymore to be fed spiritually. For 2 years, the faithful slave made arrangements for us to listen to the meetings over the radio. Since I did not have a radio, I went to different brothers' homes to listen to the meetings. When I heard the news that the faithful and discreet slave decided to resume in-person meetings, I was just so happy. Now I can see the brothers and sisters that I had not seen during the pandemic. I am back to the Kingdom Hall. I am back where I can have my spiritual food the way I've always enjoyed it.
To not be able to go to the hall was was a challenge for me. It wasn't easy, but I appreciated Zoom because we kept being fed spiritually, and that was a blessing. But still, I missed the people. When I heard we're going back to in-person, I was so excited. I was like a child and going into a candy store. I was so excited. It was great. It really was energizing. You felt alive again. We all have challenges. We're tired. So who doesn't need to be energized? We all do. And so to come to the Kingdom Hall, there's no question. I am going to the meeting. So I feel more fulfilled by being at the Kingdom Hall. I'm happy.
The Burundi branch recently wrote, "The decision to return to in-person meetings has been a great blessing to our brothers and sisters in Burundi. Although they did what they could to connect virtually, the reality was that many just did not have the circumstances to do so. Since resuming in-person congregation meetings, our attendance has increased tremendously throughout the country. For example, in one congregation, the attendance was 140 persons when the meetings were held virtually. But after resuming in-person meetings at the Kingdom Hall, the attendance is now 227.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe they did get an increase in one Kingdom Hall. It's a possibility.
The announcement included this thought-provoking statement. On the other hand, some brothers and sisters, younger and in good health, have more favorable circumstances that may allow them to attend Christian meetings regularly at the Kingdom Hall. However, it has been observed that some have developed a tendency to attend meetings on a video conference when, according to their circumstances, they could be physically at the Kingdom Hall.
So they are having a problem with in-person meetings.
The Chariot is moving. We're getting ready for in-person circuit assemblies and regional conventions. So now is an excellent time to evaluate our attitude about in-person meetings. How we cherish our opportunities to be in the midst of the congregation at in-person meetings. The announcement concluded by saying, strong faith and endurance are required to face deteriorating world conditions.
Deteriorating world conditions. Alrighty, here we go with the fear-mongering.
Recently, approximately 100 congregations in Ukraine were approved to resume in-person meetings where it was safe to do so. The brothers and sisters responded enthusiastically. Notice some of their expressions which highlight the joy and benefits of in-person meetings. A sister named Svetlana says, when the announcement was read about the return to in-person meetings, the first thing I did was thank Jehovah in fervent prayer. Meetings at the Kingdom Hall refresh and give emotional strength. This is especially the case after spending hours in basements and hearing bombs explode.
Hours in basements and hearing bombs explode. Yeah.
Nadia states, the war is taking an emotional and physical toll on all of us, but when I am in the Kingdom Hall, I forget about my problems, my worries, and even the war. Brother Stanislav, who got baptized during the pandemic without ever having attended a meeting at the Kingdom Hall, says, I am a modern person and found our Zoom meetings okay. But I did not expect that the atmosphere in the Kingdom Hall would be so overwhelming. We're encouraged by the determination of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine to attend in-person meetings despite the many challenges they face. We must always be ready to adapt when Jehovah's chariot moves. We do so not only by attending meetings and participating in the field ministry, but also by staying up to date with our spiritual feeding program. By keeping pace with Jehovah's Chariot, we show that we respect and have confidence in Jehovah. Yes, by being part of Jehovah's organization, we share in the strength and peace that only He can provide.
I'm sorry, but Jesus is the one who gives us peace, not Jehovah of Watchtower. All right, that's it for Governing Body Update number 8. What do you think? At least it's not all about fear-mongering. Let me know what you think about the announcement to the indoctrinated about losing the funding, the grant in Norway. Do you think this is going to backfire on them? Should they just have left it as it was and maybe lose less? I think they are losing more members than we could imagine. Let me know what you think, friends. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.